Okay, so we are going to put our halter pattern on paper. One thing I didn't mention before I stopped the last video is I am actually going to add a tie to my shoulder here that's going to just be extended, and I'll do that on paper. If you wanted to drape the rest of the neck to do a closure there, you would need to prepare just a small piece of muslin with a fold at the center back just to drape the back curve of the neckline around to the center back, and then that would be put on paper and added at the shoulder seam. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and set up my center front guideline here. And just bear with me because I'm doing this upside down. Make sure that you are drafting again in the direction that we read. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pin my center front. Here on the guideline, making sure I have enough room for seam allowance around the drape. And I don't want to pull this, but I do want to make sure it's tight so it doesn't warp. Okay, I'm going to smooth that out. Okay, so again, I don't have an awl, so what I'm going to do is use one of these larger metal push pins, but you should be using your awl to go in and awl each of your landmark points. So that's both shoulder cross markings, the center front at the neck. I'm just going to ignore my neckline marking up here because that will be cut away. So center front at the waist, the side seam where it meets the waist. Here is my dart leg, other dart leg, under the arm. Gonna trace my neckline, my armhole, and my waistline. And I need to awl my apex. Okay, so now I can pick this up. And I'm going to go in and put my straight lines in first, so going from all point to all point. So here's my shoulder, just did my side seam. At the waist, this is curved, but I do want to make sure that this is going to be a right angle here for at least 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to line this up either using my L square, my ruler, and mark 1/4 of an inch here, and then that is angling down a little bit. So I'm going through this. Probably could use a hip curve. I am missing my hip curve that I usually keep at home because I think I took it to school. So I'm gonna just use this and just make sure I have a carefully blended line. Okay, and then I also have a straight line that would be going from my waist to my dart leg. Okay, so my dart would go from my dart leg to apex. I'm going to draw that in. And the same thing here to my other dart leg. And then when I pick this up, I'm going to true it before I put my seam allowance on. Make sure it's accurate. And I'm also going to do a 5/8. So true dart, because this is the front of my design, going toward the apex. Okay, so then I'm going to go in and draw the curves. So that's here. And again, you may have to draw it in more than one step. It may not be exact as a traced line, but you want to find the best curve. Okay, I'm going to go from here to here and blend this to the shoulder point. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. So I find the best curve here, and then blend where it starts to move away from the curve. That was pretty good. This is bothering me a little bit. Okay, so there's my center front dart. I'm going to put center front here. This is pretty curved. I think I'm going to go ahead and put this on the fold. I'm going to put a fold bracket. And I'm going to go ahead and true this French dart here. Bring in my bottom dart to meet the top one. I have to fold it the wrong way. And don't worry about it laying down flat. Just make sure the two ends meet up and that you're tracing straight down. So this extends way further, if you can see the paper underneath, than my actual dart line. So I'm going to just hold my ruler up here so I can kind of trace this straight. And so I'm going to trace my waistline all the way down to the fold of the paper. And there we go. So here's my dart shape. I'm going to use, you can also find the center of my dart, which for this design would be helpful. Let me just draw the dart in first. So I'm going here. And here, and I'm going to draw the center of my dart toward the apex. I've already trued it. And so this is my halter with French dart. I chose a French dart. It's the front. So I'm cutting, this is on fold, so I'm going to do self 1, so we're cutting one of the main fabric over my size, which is 8, and I'm going to put my name or initials on it. And before I put seam allowance, I'm going to draft the back, and then just kind of true my side and shoulder seam. Okay, so for right now, I'm just going to leave this just like this. so for our back, I'm gonna just pin my paper down. Put my guideline down. Pin my center back fold to match up the grain line on my paper. Smooth this out. Pin outside of my drape. Okay, again, I'm missing an awl. You should be using an awl, but I'm using my heavy duty push pin, metal push pin. And I did have a correction during the drape, so I'm going to make sure I use my corrected point. And this should be pretty simple because we did the small of the back, so there didn't need to be any darts. So I'm going to go in and just trace all of these lines because they are all curved. So I'm going to label my center back here, and I want a right angle for at least 1/4 of an inch here at the top and bottom, just to make sure I don't have any skewing or bowing here. And then I'm going to use my curve, using the straightest part of the curve, resting at the center of the body. And I probably should be using my hip curve, but again, I don't have that with me. And I just want a nice clean blended line. And also I'm going to find the best curve here. I think I can do it all on one. Okay. So this is my center back, so now my grain line, I'm going to just mark by coming in 1 inch from the center back. And I'm going to go ahead and label it. So this is halter back, and this is going to be cut 1, and my main fabric for self 1/8, name or initials, and I can go ahead and put my zipper extension on the back, so I'm going to do a 1 inch zipper extension back here. And then before I go in and add my seam allowance, I just want to walk my pattern pieces. So I'm going to actually fold my dart. And I'm going to pin it, or you can tape it. Just know that it's temporary, so don't tape it too much. So I'm going to just fold and pin my dart to get rid of the excess. Okay, so this is what it looks like pinned. Okay, so I just need to walk my side pin here. And I don't need to walk my shoulder because I'm actually going to make ties for it. So. I'm going to just kind of fold back my side seam here. And start at the center front and make sure it's right on my pencil line. This is curved, so it's a little hard to do. One side's really curved and one is not, so I can already tell something's off. So I'm way off here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is measure the distance where I'm off. I'm not sure how I got this off. So I'm off by like 3/4 of an inch. So if I take half of that, would be 3/8, and I'm gonna just take my tracing wheel and mark both at the 3/8. Okay, so that means the longer one, so my back I'm gonna raise to 3/8 and I'm gonna lower my front to 3/8 so they'll meet in the middle. Start with the back first. And I'm actually going to come here. And I think because this is so curved, I'm going to just blend in to my center back here. So all of this will go away. I'm going to just erase it. Okay, so now I can finish that one up and put seam allowance on it. This one I needed to lower, so I'm literally just going to extend this waistline here a bit. And that may be why this looked like that here. And that's what it is. It's slightly less. Hard to do 3/8 on this really. That should be the 3 blocks. The lines are really small on here for 3/8. So I get rid of this one, and I'm ready to add my seam allowance. So I'm doing 1/2 inch, and I need to do a correction. On my sleeve, or I'm sorry, on my neckline, because I'm going to actually add the extension for a tie. So when I get to my armhole, this again is going to be 1/4. Okay, this is going to be, actually I'm going to leave this because we're going to add paper here. And then 1/4 of an inch for my neckline. So let me just do it back quickly, and then I'm going to measure on the dress form to figure out what I want at the neckline. So we're doing 1/2 inch here. 1/2 inch on the side seam. Okay, and then 1/2 inch at the top here. Okay, so back is done. I'm going to cut it out, put it in the envelope with my drape, and then the front, I'm just going to add some paper from extension. Okay, so I am going to actually do a tie back here. So I just need a measure for that. And add it to my pattern piece. So if I end it here, I'm going to do the same width as on my shoulder. And I think I want my tie to be maybe about 16 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my pattern. Okay, so I cut a strip of paper, and I'm going to end up taping it here. Okay, so I'm going to just extend my strap here, and it doesn't need to be on that angle, but it needs to be the same width. So my width here is exactly 2 inches. So I'm going to just kind of draw a straight line here. Needs to be 16 inches, so I just want to make sure it's at least 16 inches. It won't be too much paper. So let's do that. There's 16 inches here. So and then 2 inches away, I'm going to draw to connect that point, and I'm going to just blend it into my original shoulder line here. And close that, and then I will be sewing the end of it. So I'm going to just put a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance at the end and all around it. Okay, so then I'm ready to cut this out, add this to my drape. Okay, If I were sewing this up, this is something that I would self-face, so I would actually end up cutting this on the fold, the back on the fold with my main fabric, and then either cut another whole front and two backs on the with the fabric folded either in lining or in the main fabric to self-face it, and then would flip it out. Probably stitch around the straps, leave the waistline open or the center back to put a zipper closure, or the left side of the body, to then flip it out that way and put the closure in. Okay, so this is the halter completed.